Psalm 95, which we just heard read this morning, is a call to worship. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. O come, let us worship and bow down. What do we mean? What do we mean and understand by this thing that we call worship? I'd like to share with you a story that I heard from a colleague. The last story I shared with you was one from my own experience, but this is a colleague talking, and so I've changed a few details just to make sure the people involved are anonymous. A colleague in ministry once shared how he spent many hours in his study preparing to lead worship, crafting the sermon, choosing appropriate hymns, and writing the prayers. And then one Sunday, a lady who was a regular member of his congregation shared with him how much she really appreciated his worship services. Now, when the minister inquired, was there any particular part of the worship service which she tended to find most meaningful, the lady replied that she was referring to the whole of the service. She then went on to explain it was the fact that the minister kept the worship on Sunday morning to less than an hour. And interesting enough for her to feel that she hadn't wasted her time getting to the highlight of her week, which was morning tea with her friends after the service. It's amazing how little old ladies are very honest and very, very wise. What do you and I mean and understand by this thing that we call worship? Well, as we all know, worship is about praising God. But worship is not about God needing praise. The important point to note here is that though worship may be directed to God, worship is in an important sense for us. In other words, worship has the power to draw us up out of ourselves. Worship is not a lever for impressing or activating the divine. Worship is a responsive activity which human beings offer in response to life and shaped by the church, the culture, creed, and context. Worship is about creating a sense of the sacred. The use of words in sermons and prayers, the shared silences, the sacraments, the rituals, and the music all create a sense of another world. Worship is an act of slowing down. It's a time of mindfulness, inviting a place of reflection upon some of the most important aspects of life: God, neighbours, the earth, and ourselves. Now, I have to confess that, like a number of other people, I find the word worship somewhat unhelpful. It tends to convey ideas of homage, kowtowing, and placation of somebody that's angry. Is there, I wonder, a word, a term we could use which does not carry this sort of baggage? A colleague who is now no longer with us struggled with the term worship. And after many months of struggling with it, he settled on this phrase, times of special awareness. He saw worship as a time of special awareness. I rather like that term. And this seems to me to be an appropriate and more accurate description for what we commonly refer to as worship. And these times of special awareness can occur either in solitude or in the company of others. Now to a key question. Are we somehow or another made for worship? Are we somehow or another hardwired? Do we have some built-in capacity for awe, wonder, and reverence? A professor by the name of Manfred Kleins, who was a professor of neuropsychology, who studied brain activity in various emotional states, maintains that in the process of evolution, we humans have become hardwired with these capacities. And other researchers working in the area of brain function during the process of meditating confirms that we human beings do indeed seem to be hardwired in some way. For many people, worship is primarily a corporate act done in the company of others. They find it much easier to pray, meditate, and worship with others than by themselves. And some worship gatherings can be described as cheery and chirpy, what we might call happy, slappy, clappy. You've probably seen some of these on television. While other worship services tend to focus on the solemn and serious. For a significant number of people within congregations, the emphasis is on a celebration of community. They truly value a sense of community in which people share their stories, support each other, and take action for others. For some, worship helps affirm and celebrate perspectives on both ordinary living and significant life events. For others, a major part of participating in worship is for the opportunities provided to be challenged by ideas which broaden and deepen understanding of human life and the search for meaning. Now, some worship gatherings can be very, very wordy, while others make room for periods of silence. For example, silence is a major part of Tezi worship or of Quaker meetings. And some years ago, the famous writer Waldo Emerson once wrote, "Let us be silent, that we may hear the whispers of the gods." Also, music. Music can be significant in the experience of worship. Beautiful and inspiring music can speak to us in ways that words cannot. And there are many people today who recognize and appreciate the close relationship which can exist between music and spirituality. Each of these various expressions of worship invite the participant to enter into the present and participate not only as an individual, but as part of a living community, extending over many generations and thereby connecting past and present. Worship is also offered by the way we live life, shape our relationships, and participate in aspects of community life well beyond the doors of the church. For a movement, organization, or community to survive, it needs some gathering point or focus. For its survival over generations and for the vitality of the Christian movement, some gathering is required, and worship has been and continues to be that gathering. But could the decline of Christian churches in recent times be related, perhaps even partly caused, by the failure of worship to achieve this objective for contemporary Christians and spiritual seekers? I think that is a serious question that we need to ask ourselves. Because let's be honest, many people in today's society see Christianity as irrelevant. They point to the ways that Christian beliefs and formulas are expressed as belonging to another time, a time which they feel bears little, if any, relation to the problems and opportunities of our modern-day world. Nowadays, as a result of the profound change in human self-understanding due to modern scientific ideas, there exists a greater questioning of previously accepted ideas, previously accepted answers, practices and traditions than once was the case. You know, human beings are by nature meaning makers. The search for meaning in life is an important part of the whole life journey, and currently is one of the gravest issues facing us in the Western world. How are we within the church responding to this situation? Are we resisting? Or is it a matter of could do better, or even room for improvement? Perhaps some of you here may even have some suggestions as you reflect upon what works best for you and what might be appropriate in today's situation as you think about your own family, friends, and younger people.